Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Courtroom Insider. It is March 2nd, 2026. Good to have you here. I'm Nate Eaton coming to you live from Idaho Falls. This is Courtroom Insider. Every night during the Kouri Richins trial, we're doing a recap for you in case you can't watch all 8 hours of testimony. Well, probably 6 hours after lunch and the breaks and whatnot. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about tonight. So glad you're here. Hope you had a great weekend, everybody. Monday's here, first Monday of the month. It's warming up, spring's here, and we're ready for it. Erica just made my wife just made a delicious steak Alfredo for dinner with homemade garlic bread. Delicious. So I'm ready to go. I hope you are too. Would love to know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions tonight, we are talking about text messages. I should say love text messages, web searches, phone tracking, and more. A vacation where Kouri confided to a work colleague or a woman who worked with her husband. They went on a family trip together. Anyway, there's a lot to talk about. We heard from 5 witnesses today. Here's who was on the stand. Dr. Kouri Richins. If his name sounds familiar, it's because he testified in the Daybell trial. And he was able to... he was the medical examiner. He is the retired medical examiner from the state of Utah. He did not personally conduct the autopsy on Kouri Richins, but his not underling, I want to say, but one of his colleagues did. And we're going to hear a phone call that Kouri Richins made to Dr. Christensen about the autopsy of her husband. Molly Crosswhite is a woman who rented or actually bought a home from Kouri Richins. Allison Wright, she's that woman that went on the vacation with the family, with the Richins family, and Kouri said some interesting stuff. We heard briefly for less than 2 minutes from Jeff O'Driscoll. He's the lead investigator in the case. I have a feeling he'll be back on the stand. The majority of the day was with this guy named Chris Kotrodimos. He owns a company that extracts cell phone data, evaluates cell phone data, and then tells you what's on phones. And boy, did he extract some information from these phones. Kouri's phones, Eric's phone, Carmen's phone, the woman that picked up the pills, the guy that she got the pills from, Robert's phone. He was evaluating all these phones, and he gave us about a 3-hour testimony this afternoon about those phones, where the phones were going, all that. We'll get into all of it. So, you ready? Let's get right into it. Dr. Kouri Richins was the first witness. He was the chief medical examiner for the state until since July of 2016. Recently retired. He was Dr. Ulmer's boss. She testified last week. She's the one that did the medical examination on Kouri Richins and determined that he had died of a fentanyl poisoning. He talked about how people can ingest fentanyl in very different ways. With Eric's body, it's quite likely, he said, that he ingested it orally. It wasn't like there were needle marks or anything like that. Fentanyl is 100 times more potent than morphine. And he talked about how Kouri Richins called him a few weeks after Eric died and asked for some information about her husband's autopsy. And she wanted specifics about the alcohol in his blood, about the fentanyl and whatnot. Here's just a clip. It was about, I think, a 15, 19, 20-minute call, something like that. I'm just going to play you about 3 or 4 minutes. Here is her conversation with Dr. Christensen.
Third one, the acetyl, I don't know how you say that.
Acetylfentanyl.
Oh.
Yeah, that's just it's a form of, it's a variant of fentanyl that is usually only present in the setting of illicitly manufactured fentanyl.
Illicit manufactured, like a pharmacy?
No. Most fentanyl that we see that, ends up leading people to die these days is related to, fentanyl that's manufactured by drug cartels as opposed to by pharmaceutical companies.
Oh, good Lord. So this is like more of like a cartel. No, I mean, that's not what it is.
You call this street fentanyl as opposed to,
prescription.
Fentanyl.
Okay, I see. And then is the ethanol, is that alcohol?
That's alcohol. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and is that like the 279? Is that kind of like a substantial amount, or is that like one drink? Is that 5 drinks?
You can't tell how much it is, and in this case, in since this testing was sent, quite a long time after the original autopsy, most likely that's related to, postmortem change, but it could be stuff that he drank. There's not really a way to sort that out. It could be related to decomposition of the stomach contents, or it could be related to stuff he drank. But either way, in the stomach contents, there's no way to know what that level means in terms of, if that was a blood level, that would be the same as a 0.28, which would be, that person would be pretty substantially intoxicated. But because it's gastric contents, you could in theory pull something out and it would be, 100% ethanol, if, depending on if they just drank a stomach full of, if they just drank a bunch of Everclear or something else. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't really tell you much about how much they drank or what they drank or anything like that.
I gotcha.
When it's in the stomach. And it's not present in his blood, so.
I gotcha, okay. So it's not present in the blood, just the gastric or whatever.
Right.
Okay,
Yep.
And then just the last one, what is quetiapine? Quetiapine?
Quetiapine is an antipsychotic medication. It's called Seroquel.
Okay. I gotcha.
It's a prescription mental health medication that's prescribed for different things.
I gotcha, okay. And it has like 16,000?
16,000 nanograms per milliliter. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and is that, quite a bit? Like,
that's a big number, but it doesn't really mean that much. So a nanogram is a millionth of a gram, and a gram is not very big. So even 16,000 of them is not a huge amount.
Okay. Is there could those have been mixed, or is that not kind of a?
What's that? Could what be mixed?
Quetiapine and the fentanyl, or is that a normal, I guess, drug thing? I don't know.
It's not. Most of the time, if we see those together, it's because somebody was taking quetiapine as a prescribed medication and they were abusing fentanyl. But there's do you have any indication he was abusing fentanyl?
No, that's why all of this is just what the heck is this and going on? So I guess that's why I'm confused just about all of this, honestly. So I don't know. So, I know it doesn't mean anything now, but just kind of something for me to, try and figure out, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I'm assuming.
Yeah, like she said, it doesn't change anything in the cause or manner of death. It's still, definitely, death from fentanyl intoxication, and we still don't know how he got it into him.
Yeah, and is that anything you could ever find out if it was? Do people normally eat that? Take it? Is that something you shoot?
It's not usually something people eat. Well, that's not even true anymore. So with illicitly manufactured stuff, sometimes people take pills that have that. So these days you can't really tell.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate your time. I do. Thank you very much. And
if you have other questions, don't hesitate to give me a call.
Okay. Awesome. What was your name?
Dr. Christensen.
Oh, Christensen. Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. I'd love to know your thoughts about the call. I know there was a lot of talk online that she sounds very casual, that she's laughing, giggling in a way. This was a couple of weeks after Eric died. Now, I can tell you one thing. If my wife died of whatever, right now at her age, up 30s, I would want to know everything. So I would call the medical examiner. I would say, give me every single thing you can. What was in her blood, every level, every number. Some of you were saying you thought it was weird she called them. I don't personally think it was that weird. Now, you can look at it two ways. One, she's a genuine concerned spouse who wants information. Or two, she's trying to find out what they know about what she was involved in if she is guilty. So you can kind of see both sides. But regardless, anyone around me who dies of my family, it's unusual, I'm going to be that person calling the ME being like, tell me everything. I want the reports. I want the photo. Well, I don't know if I want the autopsy photos. Maybe I would. I would want to know everything. So I don't think it's that unusual that she called. There could have been nefarious reasons why she called, which is I think why the prosecution played the call. because she really wanted to know, like, can you ever determine how he got it in him? She had those type of questions. Dr. Christensen testified that almost all fentanyl deaths are prescriptions being used incorrectly. But you also heard him say on that call, and he said on the stand, that the drug in his system likely did not come from a prescription. It likely came from the street. He was asked about by the defense and from others that the opioids, generally people don't have an allergic reaction to opioids. And when pressed, he said that there were no hives on Eric's body. So the defense has asked about this before. Is it possible that Eric could have been allergic to something he took and the allergic reaction caused his death? And the experts thus far have said that would be, they haven't heard of that, or it'd be very unusual. Now, the second witness to testify is a woman who rented a home. A woman who rented a home from Kouri Richins. But before we get to that, they had a little break between witnesses where they wanted to get in the jailhouse interview with Robert Crozier. He's the guy that gave the pills. He was the drug dealer. He got the pills. He gave them to Carmen. Carmen gave them to Kouri. And he went and retrieved them. And they promised him immunity if he'd testify. And they wanted to get in today in court this jailhouse interview that he had with the detectives, where they basically go in and say, cooperate with us. Again, I put the whole thing on our YouTube channel. This is just a short clip where he's learned that one of the drugs he gave killed somebody. Well, the police say at least that. And his reaction. This was on May 4th of 23. Eric died in March of 2022, so over a year later.
To talk to you about a transaction that you made a little over a year ago with a female named Carmen Lauber that Nicole put you in touch with. You met her at a Maverick and Draper on 2 separate occasions in February of last year, so a little over a year ago.
Okay. It's not
Ringing a bell at all?
Not ringing any specific bell, no.
Okay. Well, let me give you a little more information then. So we've talked to Carmen, we've talked to Nicole. We talked to Nicole yesterday, got her phone and downloaded everything we needed off of her phone. You sold Carmen blues on 2 separate occasions there at the Draper Maverick. As a result, somebody died from that transaction. So we're not interested in jamming you up or anything like that. We're simply here for information. But we know that you sold those to them. We can prove that through cell phone records and that kind of stuff. But right now, your information for us is more valuable than you being charged federally with selling fentanyl that results in the death. I know you're in on some drug stuff. Do you know anything about the federal rules with fentanyl and M30s? And
I don't know anything. I know I've got a distribution of, I got a cop of 30 of them in December.
the M30s?
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us what you know. Like I said, right now your information is more valuable, but at this point we can prove, we know that you met with Carmen at Draper Maverick on 2 separate occasions, sold her fentanyl. That fentanyl is then used in a death case, basically. So we've tracked it back to this point, but we're not interested in jamming you up. We're here to try and corroborate information.
Corroborate.
Validate.
I know
what Carmen and Nicole have both already told us. So you're in the position right now of either telling us what you know about it and basically not hurting anybody because Carmen and Nicole have both already talked to us here, and you're verifying information that we have.
Okay.
Or if you don't want to talk to us, that's fine. We will pursue it federally because we know that you sold them the fentanyl that resulted in the death. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to bullshit you. I'm just kind of laying it out exactly how it is right now.
Okay, that's just a clip. You can go back and watch the whole thing. Seemed like a standard police interview. And I think, though, that the jury now has it to look at as evidence if they want to, or it's perhaps it will come in again later in the trial. So they showed the jurors that, and then they went into testimony with a woman named Molly Crosswhite. Remember that little house in Midway where Carmen said she went and placed the drugs in the fire pit and the money was in the closet and she put the drugs in the closet, and that's kind of where she would drop off the drugs and Kouri would leave the money. Well, Molly bought that house, but she bought that house. She closed on the property January 26 of 2022. And remember Eric Richins died March 4th. Now, she closed on it in January of 22, but had renters that didn't move in until later. So the house was vacant. Kouri technically didn't own it, and she was asked about, did you change the locks? Had she bought it on January 26th, 26th, would you go in and immediately change the locks so that no one can get into it? That's what she was asked. Here's what she said.
Were the locks on that home the same as they were on January 26th when you closed to the time your renters moved in?
They were the same.
And did Kouri Richins rehab that home for you?
Prior to us purchasing it, it's our understanding she had done a renovation.
And did she have the keys to that home throughout that renovation process?
I would assume so.
Am I right then, as far as you know, that home was unoccupied between January the 26th, 2022, and the end of March 2022?
That's correct.
So unoccupied during the time that the drug transactions went down. Her testimony was short, not much there, but proof that another little piece of the puzzle. Remember, when you look at these trials, everybody's got a piece. Some people bring ginormous pieces, and 12 of them. Some people just bring that itty bitty tiny piece there at the corner. I've been thinking this weekend, and last week. Do you remember how I interviewed some of the jurors with Daybell? And many of them told me that by the third or fourth day, they were convinced that was it. They were done. Nothing changed their mind. I'm wondering in my mind, granted, this is a completely different case, completely different set of facts. They can't compare, other than the charges are somewhat similar. Do you think the jurors have their minds made up? Some of them, at least, like guilty. Granted, they should not. The judge instructed them not to, and they still have not heard a defense, and that's going to be interesting. There's been plenty of space here. Many of you have said for reasonable doubt. What if Eric took the pill himself? There's all those sort of questions. After this witness, we heard from Allison Wright. Now, Allison Wright's husband worked with Eric in the stonemasonry business. There was a bit of an issue after her testimony with a juror who realized that they knew her, but they knew her with a maiden name, I believe. So the juror did give a note to the judge. The defense asked that the juror be booted. Judge said, I'm not going to rule yet on that because it's possible that it's so far removed that it's not a big deal. Even if he does decide to remove that juror in 2 or 3 days, then okay, there's backup jurors. There's the backups that are there, and they can step in. It's not going to really disrupt the trial, but the defense did get that on the motion. Also, the defense did file a motion for a mistrial. Remember the other day when the witness said that when she was asked about did she listen to phone calls between Kouri and her family members, and she said jail phone calls, and immediately the defense was like, strike it from the record. The judge told the jurors, don't pay attention to that jail word. And then, so they filed a motion and said, mistrial, unfair, the jury already knows. The judge denied that motion today and said, listen, in all of the voluminous amount of evidence and testimony in this trial, that one little phrase isn't going to stick out. The woman's been charged with murder. The charges are serious, so you can relatively assume that the jurors are going to think she's probably served some time in jail. And it wasn't said on purpose by the witness. It just kind of came in. So the judge did deny that request for the mistrial. But back to Allison's testimony. So their husbands worked together. They went on a trip together in 2019. They went in February of 2019. They had a good trip together. And then I butted these two sound bites together. So you're going to hear that testimony. And then there's part of it where the defense attorney wanted to ask some questions outside the presence of the jury because of a statement that Kouri said to Allison. And they didn't want the jurors there to hear it. So you're going to hear her testimony, and then you're going to hear them say, can the jury please leave? And then we're going to pick it up after they left. Here is the part of the testimony from Allison Wright.
And do you remember a conversation during that trip with Kouri Richins that stood out to you?
Yes.
Go ahead and describe for the jury what you remember about that conversation.
On our vacation, Kouri and I ended up alone for a moment, and Just talking about our families, life, kids.
Your Honor, objection, can we approach?
Yes. If you would just ask me several questions, we'll see where this goes.
Certainly. And so,
So the jury
now that
just
we're outside the
left.
presence of the jury, we're just going to get a preview of how you would answer the question that I just asked you. So describing what you remember from that conversation with Kouri Richins from the vacation.
Go ahead.
While we were sitting there, we were discussing life, and Kouri then explained how things weren't super great in her marriage, how she felt trapped. She explained to me that there was a prenuptial agreement that was put in place, and I had never heard of that. She continued to say how I think the trapped was mostly due to financial, is Eric would, because of the terms of the financial agreement, Eric would end up benefiting financially and continue to live as they currently were, where she would be in a different circumstance. She explained how she feared that the kids would be drawn to Eric's life and felt like she was unhappy in there, but feared what it would look like if she ended the marriage.
And is it okay if I ask a follow-up question?
Of course.
Did that conversation kind of give you context or inform you about Kouri, kind of what she was doing with her business at that time?
Yeah, things started to make sense. Like, I was impressed that she went and got a master's degree. Kouri's motivated, hardworking. I always admired that. And she was very motivated, it felt like, to become financially independent.
Your Honor, this conversation, can we get a foundation of exactly when in 2019 this conversation took place? Sometime in that year?
February, but
Mid-February.
Okay.
I think the trip started on the 17th. And
Your
I'm
Honor.
not sure what day.
Do you want to have this discussion with the witness
I
present?
do, outside that, if she could step down and step out.
Do you want any more for recollection before we have the conversation?
No.
Okay. Do you mind just waiting out in the lobby for us for a
Yes.
minute?
Okay, so she goes out in the lobby. The defense did not want this statement in. They said that this testimony, this conversation, happened 3 years before Eric died, and in between the time he died, they'd been to marriage counseling. Like, it was a completely different context, and that they objected to the whole thing. Then Catherine Nestor, the defense attorney there in blue, had a chance to question Allison about that conversation. So what happened? Allison came back in. The jury came back in. She relayed. The prosecutor asked those same exact questions. Tell me about the conversation. She learned about the prenup. She learned about all that stuff that she said. And the jury heard it. The judge allowed it in. Then it was time for Catherine Nestor to cross-examine her and ask her questions about that conversation. Here's how that went.
Your Honor, may it please the court. According to Mrs. Wright, this conversation took place in February of 2019. 3 years prior, more than 3 years prior to Mr. Richins' death.
I'm going to pause there. I'm sorry. I'm going to play that. This is Catherine Nestor objecting. Then after that, so the witness is not back in the room yet. This is her objecting. Then I'll play the clip when she comes back in.
Your Honor, may it please the court. According to Mrs. Wright, this conversation took place in February of 2019. 3 years prior, more than 3 years prior to Mr. Richins' death. In the interim, in between 2019 and 2022, the Richins attended marriage counseling and worked on their marriage, and a bunch of water under the bridge. To allow a conversation on a vacation in a situation where two women are just chatting about the condition of their marriage, 3 years, there's certainly no allegation here that Kouri Richins was planning to murder her husband 3 years in advance. Outrageously prejudicial due to the temporal distance in the statement that is being made. No relevance because it's 3 years prior.
Why isn't it relevant to show that Ms. Richins was aware of the outcome financially that would flow to her from a divorce based upon the prenuptial agreement?
She's aware of that when she signs the prenuptial agreement. They've entered the agreement that she signed.
Inference. This is, well, I mean, I think you've answered my question. It is relevant to show she's aware of it.
No, sir. The conversation in 2019 certainly isn't relevant. They have introduced a prenuptial agreement that she signed. It's clear that she knew.
I apologize for interrupting you. It's not clear because it doesn't, I have no evidence that she read it. I don't have any evidence that she understood it. Here, I have a witness saying she understood it, was aware of it, was fearful of it, was taking steps to mitigate.
Okay. If that's going to come in over my objection, certainly respect your ruling. We've made our record, but I would ask that all the rest of that conversation be stricken as too far away, about being trapped in her marriage, about being unhappy. Everything about that is utterly irrelevant and outrageously prejudicial. And we would ask that it be stricken and only be allowed to say that she discussed her prenuptial agreement and that's it. And we also would like a continuing objection to any questions of this witness about any conversation in 2019. And we respect your ruling on that.
Okay, so defendant's objection to this series of questions of Ms. Wright is overruled.
Okay, now Allison comes back in the room and she has a chance to be questioned about that conversation she had with Kouri back in 2019 while they were on vacation.
The reason you all were talking about her marriage, there was a reason she was upset in her marriage at that time, wasn't there?
Not that I know.
Think hard.
Reason she was upset. What I understood from the conversation is things were frustrating at home.
And that's because she believed he was having an affair with a coworker, is that right?
Overruled.
Is that right?
She and I never discussed her thinking about an affair.
Is that the context of the conversation you were having that day, that she believed he was having an affair with a coworker, and that's why she was upset with her marriage and talking about divorce?
I don't recall that.
Were you aware of it at that time, that there was an affair going on between Eric and a coworker?
I don't recall that conversation versus when I found out.
When did you find out?
Or wait, I'm sorry, will you repeat that question?
When did you find out that Eric was having an affair with a woman that worked with him?
These are facts not in evidence, assumes facts not in evidence.
Foundation. You got to lay a foundation for this. I'm not sure this witness knows anything about it. Why don't you ask her?
You just testified that when you found out, you weren't sure if it was during this conversation. So when did you find out?
That's not accurate. You have to ask it open-ended.
Okay. When did you find out? Was it any time near this conversation?
Will you repeat that question with more detail?
When did you find out that Eric was supposedly having an affair with another woman in context to this conversation? Before, after, during?
I'm having a difficult time understanding because help me understand affair. Because, like, I think there was a friendship with a lady, but I don't know exactly what was going on.
Understood. That's fair. So let me rephrase it. Did you become aware that Eric had intimate feelings towards a woman that he was working with?
Your Honor, assumes facts, not evidence,
She's
argument in the
asking
question.
whether this person ever became aware of it. Overruled. It's a yes or no question, Ms. Wright. Could we start there?
Can you repeat the question?
Did you become aware that Eric, at around this time, 2019, had intimate feelings towards a woman, another woman that he worked with that was causing problems in their marriage?
I don't remember when I became aware of it.
Ballpark.
I'm sorry. I think I'd heard of it like twice, and I don't remember. I'm sorry, I don't remember.
When you were having this conversation with Kouri, did you know at that time?
I don't believe I did.
Okay, so this is the first we've heard, the first the jury's heard about some affair, relationship that Eric Richins had with another woman, allegedly. I have a feeling this may come up again during the defense, that Eric was not faithful, they're going to claim, I believe, to Kouri. And then maybe that's why Kouri's having her affairs, because we do get into the fact that Kouri was having an affair with the next witness. Actually, the next witness is Jeff O'Driscoll. He's the lead investigator. He was only on the stand, like I said, less than 2 minutes, and I believe he'll be called back up. Following him was the witness of the day, you could say, because he was on for about 3 hours, Chris Kotradimos. He's the founder of M20 Solutions. He's retired law enforcement. He's had all sorts of law enforcement experience. And what his company does is he's Celebrite trained, that company where you can take your cell phone and extract all the data out and evaluate it and break it all down. And we heard all about Celebrite during Daybell. We've heard it in other trials. Koberger it was going to be used in. It's used in trials all over the country. He evaluated the phones and extracted the phones. 3 phones belonging to Kouri, a phone belonging to Eric, a phone belonging to Carmen Lauber, the woman that dropped off the pills, a phone belonging to Robert Crozier. And he put together these maps of, well, he did a lot of stuff. He pulled down text messages, which we'll review in a minute. He pulled down images, if he could get them. He pulled down data showing where the phones were going. So on the 3 days and he showed that there were 3 days, when Carmen met up with Robert, based on cell phone towers, he was able to map out where those phones were going. So Carmen's up here in Summit County and Robert's over here. This is not to scale, obviously. And they're mapping down that she's going here and he's going here. And they're meeting up in Draper at Maverick, doing the deal and then going back their separate ways based off of cell phone towers. And as this is happening, text messages are being sent between her and him and phone calls and Kouri. And I'm not going to play them all because it's kind of the same thing. You can go watch them all. This is just one example of how it worked. This was, I believe, February 11th, 2022, the phone movement between Carmen and Robert. Here's just a little sample.
What you have on the right-hand side is going to be the text communications between Ms. Richins and Ms. Lauber for February 11th, 2022. There's just a photo so you know whose device we're referring to. A photo of Ms. Richins, a photo of Ms. Lauber. The blue bubble with the 3 dots indicates that this is a text message, and then the arrow is going to depict which direction that calls. So, for instance, the very first one at 3:22:44 is an outgoing message from Ms. Richins to Ms. Lauber at that time. And so these are on the right-hand side. These are going to come up so that you can see when the two communicated, the volume of the communication, and then also the direction. Okay. On the left-hand side is a representation of essentially the Davis County and Salt Lake County Valley areas, and you're going to see locations pop up on these on this map as we move through the record chronologically. What those, for instance, there you go, thanks, Scott. So this is a tower location. It's pointing to the location of the tower. That's important, not the device, but the tower, of that Ms. device is utilizing at 4:11 p.m., for instance, okay? Mr. Crozier's record was also populated into this as well. And at the same time, at 4:11 p.m., Mr. Crozier is pointing towards a tower location in the Davis County area. So you know which tower their devices are using. On the left-hand side, these are going to move. And what that depicts is the movement of the device as they reacquire different towers, okay? And then on the right-hand side, as we go through the slides, it's going to start populating. So Scott, you can start populating. So at 4:11, this represents a phone or a communication between Ms. Lauber and Mr. Crozier, and this is their respective locations. You can see on the right-hand side through the 4 o'clock and the 5 o'clock hour, beginning in the 5 o'clock hour, Ms. Richins and Ms. Lauber continue to communicate via text. At 5:05, Ms. Lauber is still in the Heber Valley area, and that picture that you just saw was a photo from that time frame that was recovered from Ms. Lauber's cell phone device.
Okay, so that is kind of a brief 90-second version of that. And then he walked through all of the different dates, where the phones were, cell phones, all that. Erica, my wife, today when I was preparing this, she's like, if I ever commit a crime, I'm not using any phone. I'm burying the phone in the ground and leaving it there and turning it off. Smart. But a lot of times you don't think about that. And at the time, you're just in a hurry to get your thing done. So here's what we've got. We've got text messages. Now, these are kind of hard to read. And these were shown. They didn't read them all, but the jurors got a sense. So these are text messages on Valentine's Day of 2020. This is a text from Josh Grossman. This is Kouri's boyfriend to her. And he writes, this is what the witness was able to pull down from the phones. My heart is smiling when those 3 words come from you, assuming it was I love you. It's very unique. Different than any time I've heard them before. Those feelings when coming from you bring up different feelings in me. Your love reminds me how much God loves me. It reminds me that I, my mom's son, am secretly the luckiest man on the face of the earth. Gives me immense amounts of appreciation, gratitude, and honor. I wouldn't trade your love in for a million of, you name it, whatever is next best. Darlin', you better believe that I'll be one of your Valentines. I'll be one of your Valentines. Will you be my Valentine tonight? I was writing this on the way to Salt Lake. I know you feel the need to apologize, but just so you know, I like to see you on phone calls. I like to watch you text and to hear you read aloud. I see beauty, intelligence, quick wit, cuteness, and authenticity. Somebody pointed out earlier, authenticity, what? It's like seeing a white tiger in a tropical forest instead of remembering one at the zoo. I love you. Now there were other texts. So that's from Grossman to Kouri. This is exchanges between Kouri and her husband. This is 11:33. This is around the time that prosecutors allege she tried to poison him for the first time. He says, Kay, I'm going to go lay down for a bit. If I don't start getting better, I'm going to head to the hospital. Geez, it's that bad? Need me to come home? Go to take a nap and call me when you're up. He responds, are you home? So let's look at the time. 1:41. Geez, is it that? Well, he says it 11:30. I'm going to go lay down for a bit. If I don't start getting better, I'm going to head to the hospital. Nothing for 2 hours. 1:40. Geez, it's that bad? Need me to come home? Go to take a nap and call me when you're up. Then he says, are you home? 2 minutes later. 2 minutes later, no, in Provo, waiting for my cabinet installer guy. Are you home? 1 minute later, in the office, I've been sleeping out here. She responds, weirdo, go in our bed. He responds, no, it's quiet out here. She says, it will be quiet in there if you lock the door. You sleep through anything, eine ja, but she meant to say anyway, wrote a correction. And then, how you feeling? That was at 1:48. Okay, wish you were here. 1:49. Then, I would cuddle ya, she says. Headed back in 20, he just got here. At 3:48, 2 hours later. There's this gap. He writes question mark. Huh? She writes back question question. At 4:06, look at the gaps. He's writing back, they're consistent, and then gaps. 3:48, question mark from him to her. She responds to question marks at 4:06. 4:13, thanks for answering. I don't know if that's sarcasm. I don't know. She responds, did you call? You didn't call. That's 4:13. That's 4:27. And then at 6:34, he says, we are headed in there. Food is on the front seat of my truck. She wrote that to him. I'm sorry. She wrote that to him. 6:34 p.m. Okay. Another thing we saw is the witness testified that you can track every time you pick up a phone. See, I'm going to pick up my phone. See there? That unlocked the phone. Every time you do that, that's tracked. Now it's off. Whoops, I took a picture. That's tracked. That's tracked. All these movements are recorded. If I walk from here into the other room or upstairs or whatever, it tracks it all. And they're able to pull those up. The movement of your phone. With Eric's phone, they found a 87-minute gap. You can't see the times on there, but it was an 87-minute gap around noon. 12:05, it looks like, to, shoot, I'm sorry. Maybe I can see on 1:32, it looks like. 87-minute gap. So if you look here, let me get my little pointer, you can see there's all this movement. Distance in meters, energy, calories. It's like the Apple Watch and your phone. They have those fitness trackers. And here, it's nothing. Now remember, they're saying that this is around the time she got him the sandwich. Nothing, and then it picks back up and back to normal here. The witness was asked, is that unusual? Here's what he said.
When you analyzed the movement data from Eric Richins' phone on Valentine's Day 2022, we're looking at a graph here. What does this graph depict?
The graph depicts travel, so in distance in blue, and in energy exertion basically in green, and the in frequency hour to hour on February 14th, 2022.
Was there a gap in Eric Richins' movement and the other data that you just referenced during the middle of that day?
Yes.
Is that denoted here in the blown up portion? What do we see?
It is. There's a data set on the left-hand side for flights climbed, distance traveled, and steps. Depicting, so this is a portion, well, actually, this is the 12 o'clock hour. And then on the right-hand side, there is device activity for depicting steps and distance traveled at 1:32.
And so from this data, we can tell that from approximately 12:05 to 1:32, there was no movement data recorded on Eric Richins' phone.
Correct.
Did you analyze his phone for similar types of movement on other days?
Yes.
And did you compare the data from Valentine's Day to those other days?
I did.
Was it unusual for Eric Richins to have an 87-minute gap in his activity in the middle of a workday?
It wasn't typical, no.
There were calls that Kouri Richins made to the IRS around the time Eric died. One was 3 minutes, one was 101 minutes. There was conversations, only 3, according to the witness, where Eric and Kouri discussed THC gummies. There were no conversations discussing illicit drugs, drug deals, going down to Maverick to pick pills up, nothing like that. There were texts there were daily texts with Grossman, the boyfriend, starting in September of 2020, multiple times a day. And between January and March 15th of 2022, 800 texts between Carmen and Kouri. That's around 10 or 11 every day. Between March and the end of the year, there were 600. It's a 70% decrease. So the number of texts between Carmen and Kouri, 800 in 3 months. The rest of the year, 600 to 650 total. Major decrease in the amount of time Kouri and Carmen are speaking with each other. All of those texts were not able to be grabbed. A small amount were. But what happens is, based on your cell phone company, a bunch of other stuff, if you delete the texts, sometimes you can get them, but if you wait long enough, they're gone. If you don't have them backed up in the iCloud, they're gone. But the phone company will keep a record that a text was sent. You just don't know what the texts were. So they're able to see that there were texts, just not what the actual texts were. Then we heard about the memes.
When you analyzed the movie.
And the memes we talked about the other day. GIFs, you could call them. They were ghost GIFs, meaning they were sent to Kouri or Kouri sent them, and the master file is gone. So it's like if you have a bunch of photos on your phone and you have the thumbnail, and then you click on the thumbnail and you get the big photo. If you delete the big photo, the thumbnail might stay. That was the case with these. So they were able to retrieve these 3 memes/GIFs. And we talked about it the other day. These were sent at around 8:25, 8:28, 8:30, somewhere the morning that Eric died. There's the guy from Dumb and Dumber wiping his eyes with dollar bills. There's the guy in the middle, Kevin Spacey, idiots everywhere. And then there's Donald Trump saying, "I'm really rich." They were asked about these. And the defense made a point to say, we don't know who sent these or what they were, and also made the point that those memes could have been sent to Kouri the night before on her phone, but she didn't click on them and open them until 8:30 the next morning. And he said that is a possibility. It is possible. But man, those aren't the best look. Hundreds of deleted texts. And then we saw the movement of Kouri's iPhone on the morning of March 4th, and Eric's, but Kouri's, how it moved in that critical hour when they say Eric died in that 3 o'clock hour, and when she called 911, all that's on there. We saw the text. Now what I'm going to do is, these are texts, and then we also saw web searches that Kouri did. So these are hard to read. I'm going to read them as best I can here with you as we go along. Let me just hit this. These are what she allegedly searched for. Utah prison, women, Utah prison. I should give some context. These are over the course of days, weeks. This isn't all at one time. Some of these were all at one time. We don't know the specific dates. But those blue boxes, they redacted because whatever's there doesn't have to do with the case and is irrelevant. So these are just some of the searches. Utah prison, women, Utah prison, Summit County District Attorney, can cops uncover deleted messages iPhone, how to lock my iCloud, what does lock lost iPhone actually do, Summit County District Attorney, how to turn find my iPhone off. Then we'll make these bigger. How to completely wipe an iPhone clear remotely. How to erase a phone data permanently with ME number. How to permanently delete information from any phone. How to permanently delete information from an iPhone remotely. Can cops force you to do a lie detector test? Whoops. One moment. Sorry, these They went through a bunch of these. Okay, we just did that one. Then we have, what happens if you are detained but never got read Miranda rights? Can probable cause be a testimony? She's clearly looking these up. Then we have, what are you allowed inside Utah jails? Phone, dock, Park City. CUNA mutual policy on life insurance cause of death. Will life insurance pay if death certificate says pending? Death certificate says pending. Hold up. Let me go back to that one. Will life insurance still pay? Federal Correctional Institution in Dublin, California. Luxury prisons for the rich in America. Then we have, if someone is poisoned, what does it go down on the death certificate? What is presumptive positive for naloxone? Is naloxone similar to heroin? What is presumptive positive? Can you overdose? Hold on. Can you overdose on naltrexone and norfentanyl? Where is my location on iPhone? What precaution is used to stop alcoholics? I think that's what that said. Kouri Richins realty net worth. Kouri Richins Camus net worth. She's looking up her net worth. Or someone using her phone. FBI analysis of electronics in an investigation. What is FBI analysis of electronics? How to delete Facebook. Find my iPhone is off. Is location still correct? Can find my iPhone work if off? Is find my iPhone ever wrong? Can FBI find deleted messages? What does FBI do with electronics for searches? FBI searching electronics. FBI searching electronics. What is considered non-natural manner of death? Who determines cause of death on death certificate? Can the cause of death be changed on a death certificate? What is white-collar crime? Why would the FBI be involved? Is the medical examiner report and autopsy report different? When does the FBI get involved in a case? How long does life insurance companies take to pay? What is a lethal dose of fentanyl? What is considered a lethal dose of fentanyl? Can a manner of death be changed on a death certificate? And then I believe there's one more slide here from the searches, maybe a few more. Change my passcode on iPhone. Oh, okay, there's a few more. What happens if you give Narcan to someone who doesn't need it? Is circumstance unknown an accident? How long does life insurance companies take to pay? Okay, that is the end of that slide. Then there's more. Utah women Utah prison, Summit County District Attorney, can cops uncover, did I just read these? What does lock my iPhone actually do? Summit County District Court. Okay, I think I just read those. Oh yeah, okay, here's what we're gonna do. So those were the texts. Those were the texts, messages, or the internet searches with text. She also looked up news stories and articles around this time, and they were able to retrieve those. And here are some of the headlines she looked up. Utah State Prison, Timpanogos Women's Facility, Utah inmate roster. These were web searches. That was, and then over here, it looks like, okay, there's a link. So there's a link in the searches that they pull up right there. That's what leads you to these articles. 5 things you need to know about the new Utah State Prison and when the old one will be torn down. That was a story in the Deseret News in Utah that she looked up. Then we have more texts. Can you delete everything on an iCloud account? Can you delete everything off an old iPhone without actually having it? Can deleted text messages be retrieved? Can you change the password remotely on a lost cell phone? Can deleted text messages be retrieved from an old iPhone? From an iPhone, can you change the password remotely on a lost cell phone? Log into iCloud account. And then, what do cops, when they seize electronics, what information can obtain from a cell phone? And then this story, what happens to deleted messages? a news story that she looked up online. Or her phone did. Another news story from Vox. Police can't read your iMessages, but here's what they can see. Okay. So, what do you think? All this. How long does life insurance company take to pay? What is a lethal dose of fentanyl? What is considered a lethal dose of fentanyl? Can manner of death be changed on death certificate? Sorry if I repeated some of these. They kind of went through these in court. Another web search here. How long does life insurance company take to pay? With information that came up, like how long for a death benefit payout, how quickly do you get life insurance? So these were the results of what she found when she did that search on her phone. Delay in claim payment for death certificate with pending cause of death. This was a news article or some sort of column that she found. And then there was some more. What is considered non-natural manner of death? Who determines cause of death on death certificate? Can the cause of death be changed on a death certificate? What is white collar crime? Why would the FBI be involved? I read those ones. Another one, cause of death usually does not impact life insurance payment. What to investigate, how we investigate, how does the FBI work a case? Looking those up. And then here's the thing from an attorney's office, signs of being under federal investigation. That was another search she looked up. FBI analysis, we talked about that one. FBI searching electronics, deleting information. And then how do police and forensic analysts recover deleted data from phones? Whew. So there's that. They went through all that today. It was a very, very busy day. The defense did have some cross-examination. They wanted to be clear that you cannot, they asked and the witness said, yeah, you cannot 100% say that Kouri Richins did look all of those up. But they were on her device. Also, they mentioned that it was around that time that a real housewife of Salt Lake City died, or somebody from the series, and that Kouri may have been looking up that information about luxury prisons for rich people because that person died. Perhaps. That's a good question. Okay, I think that's it. I think that's what we had today. So there you go. We have all of the testimony on our YouTube channel. You can go watch it. I'm leaving for Park City. So I'm going to be in court all day tomorrow. And I hope you'll tune in. Tomorrow night at 7, we'll have Courtroom Insider. If I'm a few minutes late, don't blame me. I'll be, checking into the hotel and whatnot. But I'll be in the courtroom, still be doing my updates. We'll still be doing the live stream. Here's the schedule. We won't be doing a Richins recap as I'll be going in the courtroom at that moment. But I might go live in the morning just walking to court. And then our live streaming is at 8:30. And then we have live written updates at 8:30, of course. And then Courtroom Insider at 7. We have some questions, some comments. We have some funny little things. Somebody wrote, McDreamy voice, I'm assuming you don't mean me. I'm assuming you mean the judge, could sing Baby, Lock the Door and Turn the Lights Down Low. I've had more comments about that judge's voice, and he does have a very nice voice. Okay, let me get to some of your questions. I'll see what I can do for you here. Thanks to Peggy, by the way. Peggy is keeping track of all of our comments and questions. Roberta in Missouri, the cross-examination on Carmen made me think of the comments the producers of the Shadow Girls made about the Green River Killer witness. How a witness is discounted because of their past and deemed uncredible just because they don't fit the perfect model. Addicts are liars, immediately dismisses everything she says, but I think she's credible, just a thought. Interesting. Someone says, I was recently the forewoman on a molestation trial in another state. It was both physically and mentally exhausting. I witnessed in real time how much a lawyer's behavior shapes a room and how much it can deeply affect juries. We're human above all else. In my case, the defense attorney went so hard on the teenage victim with questions designed to humiliate and belittle that by the time we reached deliberations, we spent the whole first hour talking about how angry we were at their behavior. Interesting. There is a huge difference between testing the facts and asking questions in such a way that are specifically designed to humiliate, which is exactly what I felt the defense attorney was doing on a number of occasions in this case. I can tell you that absolutely no one wants to watch someone be humiliated and bullied on the witness stand. Jurors are human. We are watching the tone, posture, and intent, not just the words of people's mouths. The second it feels like bullying instead of fact-finding, then the credibility of that attorney starts to slip, no matter what side the attorney's on. Fascinating point. I think that many would agree with that. That's from Anonymous. So, yeah, thank you for sending that in. I appreciate that. Nate, I'm wondering your opinion on the way questioning has been conducted in this Utah court, as well as how the judge intervenes and makes suggestions to both the state and the defense. You, like me, have watched trials in Idaho and Arizona. Doesn't it seem like this trial conducts itself vastly different? Curious to hear your thoughts, Shannon in Colorado. You know, good point, Shannon. Every state's different. Not just every state. Every judge is different. I have covered trials here in Idaho where I'll go one day and the judge is stern and no cameras allowed and everything is down to business. And the next day, another judge is cracking jokes, letting cameras in, letting the live stream, telling the defendant, good job, we're rooting for you if they get off, whatever. It all depends on the judge in his courtroom and the personality. And so Judge Boyce, stern, calm, kind of let things play out. Same with Judge Boreski. Let things play out. Judge Boreski, as you know, I interviewed him. I spent some time with him off record too. We went and had dinner together. He's a pretty funny guy, pretty fun guy too, that you probably want to hang out with. And this judge too in Park City, Judge how he say his name, Mrazek, yeah. He clearly is a little bit more casual. He said at the beginning, you don't have to ask me to approach the bench. He told everyone, you stand when the jury comes in. I'll have a better idea tomorrow, as it will be my first day in the courtroom with him and with that court. I'll let you know how it goes. I'll let you know how the jurors are reacting. He's very, it just kind of depends on the judge. I think a lot of times too, it might be a generational thing. You see that this judge let 2 cameras in. So we have 2 different angles and good mics and everything. Judge Boyce, it was Zoom cameras from afar. Judge Boreski let a camera in, but it was 1 camera from the back of the room. And it was no mics. I think we used the courtroom mics. So it all depends on the judge. But yeah, there are differences. And if you watch, court TV long enough, you'll see that there are differences. Hi, Nate. I'm from Centerville, Utah. I'm interested in the possibility of attending a session of the Richins trial. I heard that you'll be there this week, which is fantastic. I've never been to a court session before. I'd like to experience from the audience with everyone else. Okay. Alex, I'm not sure what you're asking, but I hope to see you there. If you're there, thank you. I hope you should go and enjoy it. It looked like today that all the public seats weren't taken, but last week on many days they were. There's 24 seats. Courtney, is there any way we can change the picture to the victim's face instead of Kouri's stupid face? Well, I do have a picture of Eric here that we'll show in a minute, but Kouri's the one on trial, unfortunately. And sadly, a lot of times the focus is on the suspect, but hopefully by the end of the trial, whatever the verdict is, if it's guilty, then hopefully we can not, talk about her again. But she's the one on trial. That's why we're using her picture. Joan, has Kouri been in court ever since her arrest? She's been in jail. Oh, sorry, that was from Monica. She has been in jail. So she's been in jail. She's asked for bond reductions multiple times. Judge has said no. So she has been in jail since the beginning. Last week you mentioned that causes of death can be changed after the fact. Was Tammy Daybell's cause of death changed? Yeah, it was. It was originally natural, and then they changed it to asphyxiation. Last week you seemed wildly pro-defense. Can you explain yourself? Oh, did I? I hope not. I'm trying to be down the middle. I don't have a horse in this race. Is that what they say? I don't have I'm here to report the news. I'm here to report what happens in the courtroom. I apologize if it comes off that way. I do think so many times on these cases and in my reporting, I think that the news is overly prosecutorial friendly, prosecutor friendly. Probable cause documents, when we get them from the courthouse, when someone's charged with a crime, we put all the stuff from the probable cause document in there because it's the facts, or the facts according to the police, or whatever happened. When a lot of times the defense doesn't really get a shot. And so I do want to point out and not just come on and be like, prosecutors did this, and the defense will have their time too. So I promise you this, I just want justice served in this case, and I want the right thing to happen. And I don't know we'll see what that is. Do I have opinions? Absolutely. But I'm not an opinion person. I'm a journalism person. And so my job is just to bring you the facts. So I apologize if I do speculate a little or if I came off as wildly pro-defense. But I appreciate you pointing that out. That is good. I do appreciate the feedback. We have some shout outs. We've got Aaron Soper watching. We have Mary Hines. Is this Mary Hines from high school? No, because you're married now, Mary. But Mary Hines, hi. Good to see you. Jessica is here. Tarina Crow, Kim Brown, Savannah Willingham, Kathleen Buchanan. Thank you, guys. We have people watching in Costa Rica, Wollongong, Australia, North Dakota, Lexington, Kentucky, Bluffdale, Utah, Palmdale, California, and Sparks, Nevada. Really appreciate you all watching from all over the place. Here's where you can keep up with me all day long. Facebook, X, Insta, and on YouTube. And I have a favor. I'm looking for good date ideas for Erica and me. We're doing a date a week every week this year. And we turn off our phones other than to take a photo or two. And we talk, and we're not going to miss a week. And I'm documenting it on my Facebook page and my Instagram page. But we need some ideas. I need some ideas, I should say. We went to a jazz game over the weekend. So much fun. We drove to Salt Lake for the day. And then drove home, just the two of us, just there and back. Went to the game, loved it. But I need some ideas, so can you help me out? Send them to my Facebook page, put them in the comments. Maybe one day, I told her we should but then this might defeat the purpose. We should do a group date with all of you. We can all have a dinner and a date. I'm getting off topic. Thank you all for watching. I'll be in the courtroom tomorrow for the Kouri Richins trial as we begin day 7. We'll be back here tomorrow night for Courtroom Insider. And as we go, we remember Eric Richins, who died tragically too soon. And we hope for justice on his behalf. Thank you all for watching. We'll be back tomorrow night. Take care.